Welcome to another album ranking series, and today we are doing the mighty Blut Aus Nord, French, avant-garde, black metal, one of the best bands that I've recently been getting really into, so I thought I'm going to share my thoughts with some of these albums with you guys. New setup, new year, new ranking, it's all going to be good. So before I get started with my list, nothing's changed in this section. I want you guys to pop your own down below. What's the best Blut Aus Nord album? What's the worst? Do you prefer the more experimental side, the classic early side, or, the new one like Hallucinogen? What do you prefer? Let me know down below, and let's get started with my least favourite. Now, my least favourite is still pretty interesting, and it's still one that I would go back to, but it's a bit too out there and a bit too wild and extreme, and it is, of course, Mort, which is the experimental side of Blut Aus Nord just gone wacky to the extreme, because we had the amazing, the work which transforms God, and then they came out with this, which just took it to a whole new level. The songwriting is kind of just all over the place. It's very swirling, chaotic, and messy, but that's what's good about it as well. So some people will love this, some people have this higher because of that, because of the nature of it's just freeform art, basically. It's like freeform art. And for some people it'd be great. For me, I like the stuff which is a bit more coherent, so it's coming last, I'm afraid. Second last is the Odinist, which is much better than Mort. It's actually an album that I'll return to because it's still chaotic, still experimenting, but it's more in line with the work which transforms God. So it's a bit more streamlined, and it's a bit nicer to listen to. It's a bit less just fucking throw shit at the walls and see what sticks, which is good for expressionism, but for actual albums and song-wise, I like to just, listen to the stuff. And this is a much easier listen, much better listen, but it's still not quite the Blut Aus Nord I know and love, because I have a specific sound of the band that I love. And we'll get to that. You know what it's gonna be. You know me, Questy. You know what it's gonna be, but hold your horses. We've still got more albums to get through. Maybe this is a surprise, though. The Mystical Beast of Rebellion is next. Yep, that's right, one of the early ones, the more black metal sounding albums. Why is this low? Questy, you're off your fucking rocker. Now, this one is lower because it's a bit mundane compared to some of the other albums. It is a bit more just kind of bland. It's good. The black metal's good, but good for Blut Aus Nord does not cut it, because they make amazing, exceptional albums, and just good doesn't really cut it with this band. The album, I can't really fault it too much because I like the songs, I like listening to it. It's always entertaining when I put it on, but it's just not the same level as the other masterpieces, in my opinion. Compared to some other bands, this album would knock the crap out of all them, but comparing Blut Aus Nord with itself, Mystical Beast of Rebellion is just kind of bland black metal. Not the best. Definitely not as good as some of the things that came before it, like Ultima Thule, and some of those albums. But for me, yeah, it's just kind of bland. It's all right. It's pretty good black metal, but it's not anything spectacular. So it's coming here. Next up for something very just dark and dissonant and evil. This is probably one of the most evil sounding albums. It is Deus. I can never pronounce this. Deus Salutis Mei. Yeah, okay, let's go with that. The album art, spectacular. It has kind of like a yin and yang theme going on. Very swirling, very dissonant, very dark, very evil. Probably the most evil sounding album, like I said. It's a bit short. I think the album's a bit short for this one. It needs a bit more girth with it, you know what I mean? Yeah, but overall, I love the listening experience to this. It has its own feel, its own theme, and I love it. I just think other albums just do it a little bit better, which we'll get to on the next ones, which are 777. If you're 777, then I'm 666. Don't mention Slipknot during a Blut Aus Nord ranking, Questy. 777, but which one's last? Sect is last. This is some people's favourites. This is the heaviest one. This is the more Gorguts-esque one. Pummel you into dust. Ferocious album. It's chaotic, it's dissonant, just like Deus, but way heavier. This is the heaviest album they've ever done. Something that's good with Blut Aus Nord is that they have a different style for every album. And this album's fantastic. For me, I like the more mystical, drift you off into space, black metal kind of stuff, more atmospheric stuff, and the other 777s do that a bit better than Sect. This, if you want something pummeling, this is the album for you. But for me, I want something a bit more mystical, so let's move on to the next one, which is the Sanctfication, which is more mystical, yes, but also more fun and more dancey. This is kind of like a trancey dance kind of album. Some of these beats on this album will make you just bop your head, make you do some like breakdancing shit to go on. It's crazy. This album's the most fun album they've ever done, and I enjoy it, and I want to re-listen to it right now after here. I really want to re-listen to it because I just want to jump around to this album because it's that fucking fantastic. But there can only be one winner for the 777 trilogy. That's right. It is Cosmophony. I don't know if I've said that right. This one, from the art, I knew it was going to be good. That kind of swirling darkness with the white behind it. This is a more atmospheric kind of album, harking back to the more Moira Vertusta albums, and that's the stuff I like the best. So, of course, this is going to be my favourite out of the trilogy. I think it's the only one of the trilogy which didn't get an award, but I don't care. It's my favourite, and this is Questy's list, not everyone's fucking list. So this is my favourite. It's the one I always go back to. It's the one I always listen to. It's darker. It's more atmospheric. It's more beautiful. It's more beautiful of an album. And that's why it's, you know, top of the 777 trilogy. So next up, The Work Which Transforms. God, this is a classic. This is the album that kind of broke them into the, I don't want to say mainstream, but broke them into the limelight. So people started noticing them. Because, you know, the early stuff, Atmospheric Black, has been done before. And not quite as well, but it's been done before. This is something very new. This kind of mixture, experimental, industrial sound. These songs are just so interesting, engaging. It's kind of nightmarish in times, like you're in a factory that's haunted by like necromorphs from Dead Space. It's just a random thought in my head. Feels like that. This album's terrifying, without having to be super heavy or even super dissonant. It's just terrifying. Terrifyingly sounding album. It's the album that people say is the best by the band. I love it, but I don't think it's the best. Because my sound, I prefer a different sound. So, you know, let's move on. So, here we come. Moira Vertusta. This is always the hardest part. Picking which one is best, because they're all fantastic to me. All these albums from now on, 10 out of 10s. For me, number 3 is coming in last for this one. I still adore it, though. It's still one of the best. Like, putting it, like, last of the trilogy doesn't mean anything, because it's this kind of just beautiful, atmospheric black metal, which, you know, if you're fans of, like, Druid, even Mare Cognitum, stuff like that, fans of anything like that, you love this. You'll love this, Burzum, you'll love it. And I can't say too much about each individual album, because I love them all pretty much equally. I just have to give it in an order, and it's really hard with this, man. 3 is the one I've listened to the least, which is probably why it's only here at number 3. And number 2 is number 1, Fathers of an Icy Age, which is a classic. I mean, that art's amazing. The music itself is amazing. It's one of the best atmospheric black metal albums ever. I adore it. It has that same kind of sound. This trilogy is way better than 777. I love that trilogy, but this is better. So, yeah, number 1 is number 2, and then number 2 is number 1. And number 2 is number 1, that's right. Number 2 is my favourite of the trilogy, and I could easily put this one as my favourite album. I was tempted to. Most people put this one, or The Work That Transforms God, as the best. But for me, although it's a 10 out of 10, although it's amazing, there's 2 other albums that beat it. And one of them's Hallucinogen, which I've got the background for here. The latest album? What? It harkens back to this sound, the more atmospheric black metal sound of the debut and Moira, but it just has this cosmic energy. And you know, I like my cosmic black metal, my Inquisition, my Mare Cognitum, Spectral Law, Mesafim, Dark Space, all that shit is my favourite, and this kind of just fits right in at home. And if you passed off Hallucinogen, it's amazing, it's mind-melting, it's one of the best albums of recent memory. Easily number 2, and I don't even care that the Memorial ones are more classic. I still love them, I still love them, but Hallucinogen's just number 2 for me. So that means number 1 is the fucking debut. That's right, the Icy Cold Ultima Thule, which I probably said wrong. But yeah, this one can't be beat for me. I've played it the most. It's the most icy cold. Feels like you're on like a glacier, and you're just drifting out into sea, and it's just darkness everywhere, and you're gonna die eventually. That's what this album's like. It has a specific sound which isn't created on any other Blut Aus Nord album. It's way more desolate, way more bleak, way more haunting and depressing. It just has this whole cold atmosphere about it which isn't beaten, and that's why it's the best. And I played it the most. So for those reasons, it is my favourite Blut Aus Nord album, and this was a hard task because I love all these, you know, from Mystical Beast of Rebellion, everything up from that album I love, and it was really hard to rank them. So yeah, it would be interesting to see your guys down below. What's your favourite Blut Aus Nord albums? What's your least favourites? Let me know down below. What do you think about my list? And we'll see you again on another Quest for Metal.